absolutely phenomenal artifact, and I'm going to use this to ring these stones. This looks, we always joked when I found this that this looks like a Stone Age guitar, and it's pretty much like that, you know. And I'm going to show you that it is very closely related to a musical instrument in ancient times for very specific reasons. Now you might think that the stone shape is just accidental and that it broke off or something. You'd be mistaken, because I've collected probably about 4 or 5 stones that are very, very similar in shape, very similar carving structure. There's broad base here and then down to a narrow tip, and somebody removed this particular piece of the stone over there for specific reasons, as you will hear, which I'll ring a little bit more. They ring like bells. But it's also important to note that you cannot carve or chip the stone. It will splinter and fragment, and it will not be chipped or carved. Okay, so these shapes that we see here must have been molded in some way, and molded for specific acoustic properties. And this is why. You've got to hold it a very specific way to make as little contact as possible to get it to ring and resonate at its optimum. Now remember, it's also covered in patina, the skin of the rock, this brown reddish color that covers the rock, that is no longer the original black or charcoal color, the original color of the metamorphosized quartzite that's underneath. And that's how it rings. I can actually feel my fingers underneath are deadening the ringing, because I'm holding it and it's deadening some of the effect. There we go. That's better. That's what you want. You realize that this thing really rings like a bell, and it reverberates for quite a long time. Alright, and I've shown you that this is not just somebody building things, you know, to pass time. They were, and clearly this was easy to these people, because every single one of these ruins that is measured, and this is all Johann Heine's original pioneering work, for which you'll always be remembered, because every ruin that he's measured so far turns out to have these very intricate alignments. This is spectacular, and you'll understand why this is so spectacular when you realize how many of these ruins there are. These, you know, look at this, they're perfect, and you draw a circle over there, which doesn't look like it's real, but when you extrapolate that flat line into the circle, you get a perfect hexagon. When you start joining the corners of the hexagon, look how it touches the inner circle perfectly. You know, this is not accidental, people. This takes real exact science and understanding. There you go. So these structures down there are not just simplistic structures. They carry huge amounts of energy, and but the names and places remain the same. This is very, very interesting. But what this tells us is 2 very important things that I'm going to come back to later. And this is a repetitive theme in the Sumerian text. Is after the kingship descended from heaven to earth, after kingship was lowered to earth from heaven. Okay, to us it doesn't make any sense. Oh, we think it's some crap made up by the ancient people because they were all stupid, right? And then it tells us who these kings were and how long they lived. And you can clearly see that they weren't human, because they lived and ruled for 36,000 years, 64,000 years, 28,000 years. And then a very important thing that it tells us, a very important statement from these 2 kings lists. And then the flood swept over. So 2 very important things, three important things. That kingship was lowered to earth from heaven. Somebody up there decided that they were going to appoint some kings on earth, some priest kings. That changes all of human history. It tells us that they ruled for an extended period of time, and then the flood came. So we seem to have a history, a chronology of human history until the flood. Prior to this, or until now, we know very little about what happened before the flood. And this is very important. So I believe that when they say the flood came, that's what destroyed these ruins. Some 12 to 13,000 years ago, the so-called Great Flood that there's not much argument about in geologic and archaeological circles. And you can see the sedimentation. That's why most of these ruins are not visible. Most of them are covered by soil. They're hidden from us.
Everything owes its existence solely and completely to sound. Sound is the factor which holds it together. Sound is the basis of form and shape. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. We are told that this is how the worlds began and how creation took shape. If we put that into the modern idiom and say that into the great voids of space came a sound and matter took shape. Please watch carefully.
So what we're looking at here is cymatic patterns from Earth. Each one of these stone circles just simply represents the cymatic freak or the shape of the sound of Gaia at that particular point. And this is why they connected. So they created one huge energetic field. There's one example. There's Hans Jenny's photograph, the circle in the middle and the spider's web effect outwards, the circle in the middle, spider's web effect outwards, except these were connected so they could share the energy.
Rutherford performed an experiment in Manchester that revealed him the shape of the interior of an atom. Scientists were shocked to discover that the atom is almost entirely empty space. The question then became, how could this empty atom possibly make the solid world around us?
Just as music from the radio is a physical manifestation of an intangible signal, our experience of emotion is the physical manifestation of an intangible signal as well. It has been shown that our emotions have a vibratory frequency to them. Furthermore, there are only two emotions that humankind experiences: fear and love. All other emotions branch either directly or indirectly from these two emotions. Fear has a long and slow frequency vibration to it, while love has a very rapid and high frequency. To show that vibration is the very foundation of existence, Hans Jenny developed what is known as cymatics in the 1940s to show that when vibrations of sound are passed through a form of media, there is a set pattern that will follow. When the frequency increases, the media develops into a more complex pattern. Precisely what is happening to our Earth and to humanity. There are 64 possible codes of amino acids in our DNA structure made from 4 elements: carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. By any means of logic, we should have all 64 codes activated within our DNA structure, yet we presently only have 20 active codes. Most people wonder how one person can make a difference. They ask that if all this is so simple and this information is available, why hasn't someone else conquered their fears and changed the world for everyone else? This is the most difficult and beautiful conundrum to our lives. Your reality affects you and only you. Your curiosity has led you to this genre of information to serve a very specific purpose in your life.